As the first rays of dawn filtered through the cold iron bars of Alcatraz, a lone guard moved down the corridor for the 7 a.m. roll call. It was supposed to be routine, a daily ritual in the world's most secure prison. But when the guard reached Frank Morris's cell, there was no response. He banged his baton against the bars, demanding the inmate wake up. Still nothing. Frustrated, he swung open the door and jabbed the still figure on the bed. Suddenly, with a dull thud, the lifeless head of Frank Morris rolled onto the floor. It was nothing more than a papier-mâché decoy. Panic erupted like wildfire. The guard stumbled back, shouting for backup as alarms blared across the fortress-like island. Guards raced to the cells of 2 other inmates, John and Clarence Anglin. And again, 2 more lifeless bodies. 2 more unsettlingly realistic papier-mâché heads. The unthinkable had happened. 3 prisoners had vanished from the inescapable Alcatraz, leaving behind these grotesque replicas. Amidst the chaos, a 4th inmate emerged from his cell, Alan West. Unlike the others, West hadn't made it out. The vent in his cell, despite all his efforts, was too small to crawl through in time. As the guards swarmed the block, he knew the escape had failed for him. Resigned to his fate, West stepped forward to face the inevitable questioning. Alcatraz was no ordinary prison. It was designed to crush the spirit, where the walls seemed to close in on the men trapped inside. The cells were as unforgiving as the jagged rock beneath them, and the cold, damp air seeped into their bones, making escape not just improbable but impossible. The fortress loomed over the bay, a dark sentinel that had shattered the hopes of many who dreamed of freedom. But even in this grim environment, an audacious plan had been set in motion, a plan that defied the very purpose of Alcatraz. Frank Morris was a man of unusual intelligence, earning the nickname Houdini of the prison system for his ability to slip through the cracks of confinement. A career criminal with a shadowy past, Morris had evaded capture and baffled wardens for years. Alcatraz was supposed to be different, a place where even the most cunning minds met their match. But Morris was already plotting his greatest escape, his sharp eyes missing nothing as he scrutinized the prison for weaknesses. Then there were the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, 2 hard-nosed criminals from the Florida-Georgia borderlands. Known for their daring and close bond, they had been sent to Alcatraz after an audacious escape attempt from Leavenworth Prison. The brothers were inseparable, always watching each other's backs, and now they were trapped in Alcatraz. But they didn't plan on staying. The walls of Alcatraz were supposed to be impenetrable, the cells as unyielding as the rock itself. But Morris, with his sharp eyes and sharper mind, saw something the guards had overlooked: a small air vent just below the sink in each cell. The vents, worn down by the relentless sea air, were perfect for a man with patience and a plan. Night after night, while the prison slept, Morris and the Anglin brothers set to work. Armed with nothing more than discarded spoons, they scraped away at the brittle concrete, inch by painstaking inch. Every night, their cells filled with the quiet, rhythmic sound of metal against stone, a sound swallowed by the thick walls of Alcatraz. They were careful, methodical, and above all, patient. To hide their progress, they painted over the freshly gouged concrete with green paint, blending their work seamlessly into the dull, institutional walls. Later, they crafted papier-mâché covers for the vents, perfect replicas that fooled even the most scrutinizing eyes. On the night of their escape, the vents finally yielded, wide enough to allow a man to slip through. One by one, Morris and the Anglin brothers squeezed into the maintenance corridor behind their cells, a hidden artery of the prison, dark and unpatrolled. Here the walls echoed with their quickened breaths, the thrill of freedom closer than ever before. Their destination was the roof, the final barrier between them and the open sea. They climbed the pipes like spiders, scaling the walls with a determination born of desperation. But when they reached the vent that led to the roof, they found their escape route blocked. A heavy grate bolted down as if mocking their efforts. The vent was the last gate to freedom. It was locked tight, but they had come too far to turn back now. To fool the unblinking eyes of Alcatraz, Morris and the Anglin brothers needed more than just a plan. They needed decoys so lifelike that even the seasoned guards would be deceived. This was where Morris's ingenuity truly shone. Using a mix of papier-mâché, soap, and cement, the prisoners began crafting dummy heads with meticulous detail. Each head was shaped and molded in secret, deep within the shadows of their cells, away from prying eyes. The finishing touch was what made these heads so convincing. The inmates managed to obtain real human hair from the prison barbershop. Collecting clippings over time, with painstaking care, they affixed the hair to the papier-mâché skulls, giving each dummy a disturbingly realistic appearance. The heads were crude, yet effective, each one a grim mask of deceit. When the night of the escape arrived, these decoys played their crucial role. Carefully, the prisoners placed the dummy heads under their blankets, positioning them just so. In the dim light of the cell block, the heads appeared eerily lifelike, just enough to pass a cursory inspection during the nightly checks. As the guards made their rounds, the dummies lay still, the illusion of sleeping prisoners buying Morris and the Anglin brothers the time they needed to continue their audacious escape. Morris and the Anglin brothers knew escaping Alcatraz was just the beginning. Surrounded by the frigid, unforgiving waters of San Francisco Bay, they needed a way to survive the treacherous journey to freedom. Turning to a popular mechanics magazine, they found the inspiration they needed: plans for an inflatable raft. Using the limited resources at their disposal, the prisoners began to fashion an escape vessel out of prison-issued rain jackets. The thick, rubberized fabric was perfect for their needs, and night after night, they stitched the pieces together with makeshift tools, creating a crude but potentially seaworthy raft. To ensure their survival in the icy waters, they also crafted life preservers from the same material. But the raft needed to be inflated, and the prisoners knew they couldn't rely on just their lungs. Instead, they repurposed a stolen concertina, transforming it into a bellows that could pump air into the raft. They even fashioned paddles out of wood scraps they had secretly collected, preparing for the final leg of their daring escape. On the night of June 11th, 1962, as the clock ticked toward 10 p.m., the final stage of their plan was set into motion. Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin silently slipped out of their cells, leaving behind only the lifeless dummy heads to guard their absence. With their makeshift raft and paddles in hand, they climbed to the roof and made their way down to the water's edge. The night was dark, the wind cold, and the waters of San Francisco Bay treacherous. But the trio was determined. They launched their inflatable raft into the inky blackness, their makeshift vessel bobbing precariously in the waves. As they paddled furiously into the night, the prison's lights grew distant, and the roar of the ocean became their only companion. Then, just like that, they were gone, disappearing into the cold embrace of the bay, leaving behind nothing but the mystery of their fate. When dawn broke over Alcatraz on June 12, 1962, the escape was laid bare, triggering a frantic response from the authorities. The world's most secure prison had been breached, and 3 dangerous men were now at large. The FBI launched a massive search operation, combing every inch of San Francisco Bay and the surrounding areas. Helicopters circled overhead, boats crisscrossed the waters, and agents scoured the shoreline, desperate for any sign of the fugitives. But as the hours turned into days, the mystery only deepened. Alan West, the inmate who had failed to escape, became a key figure in the investigation. Faced with no other options, he revealed the details of the audacious plan. The escapees, he explained, had intended to head north, not toward the bustling city of San Francisco, but to the more secluded Angel Island, 2 miles away. It was a calculated choice, aimed at avoiding the prying eyes and immediate danger of the densely populated city. Despite the massive search effort, the waters of the bay seemed to have swallowed the escapees whole, until investigators began to uncover crucial clues. Washed up on the shores of nearby islands, they found a sealed packet containing family photos, carefully preserved from the water, a makeshift wooden paddle, and a raincoat-made packet. Each item was a silent testament to the escape, tangible evidence linking back to Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. Yet, for all the clues, the whereabouts of the escapees remained a mystery. The remnants of their plan, the photos, the paddle, the makeshift gear, painted a picture of desperation and determination. But whether they had reached safety or perished in the cold waters of the bay was a question that would linger unanswered for decades to come. Though the initial investigation into the escape from Alcatraz was exhaustive, it left more questions than answers. The FBI, after years of searching and speculation, officially closed the case on December 31, 1979. But the mystery was far from resolved. The case was transferred to the U.S. Marshals Service, who continued to monitor for any new leads that might emerge, keeping the door to the past slightly ajar. In 2003, U.S. Marshal Michael Dyke breathed new life into the case. Digging through old files and re-examining the evidence, he uncovered intriguing new leads. One piece of evidence suggested that the escapees had managed to steal a car on the mainland, making their way to Stockton, California, over 80 miles from Alcatraz. This revelation added a new layer to the mystery. Had Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers actually managed to survive and slip into obscurity? As the years passed, the mystery of the Alcatraz escape only grew more captivating. Despite extensive investigations, no bodies were ever recovered, and no definitive evidence of their deaths ever surfaced. The bay, so feared for its treacherous currents and icy waters, kept its secrets well. The story of the escape from Alcatraz remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century, a tale of defiance against impossible odds. For many, it's a story where the underdogs might have won, where 3 men outwitted the system and vanished into the night. Did they perish in the cold, dark waters of San Francisco Bay? Or did they defy the odds, outsmart the authorities, and escape to freedom? The answer, like the men themselves, remains elusive, lost in the tides of time.